This episode of HITBOX is brought to you by Preparation H. Zach, nothing gets my anus lathered up and safe like a good old splash of the H.
And you know what Yoda said, when 900 years old you become, Preparation H, relief spells.
It's great. I don't even tell him about this stuff. I try and throw him under the bus at the beginning of these episodes. But no, we are not sponsored. We have never actually been sponsored for any of these episodes, and it's because we are run by Patreon. So if you guys are interested in not hearing annoying advertisements, unless we could do our best to make some Preparation H ones, if anyone from Preparation H wants to make a nice little hemorrhoid commercial with these guys. Yeah, that's right. We know all about bleeding buttholes.
Oh boy, howdy.
Yeah, that's basically everything we specialize in. I gotta stop. So anyway, Patreon helps us out a ton. $1 a month, guys. It's really important. But anyway, I should probably get to the actual show that you actually wanted to hear instead of more ads like this. Is this even considered an ad? Kind of is. I mean, if you get to the actual transition of a real show they wanted to hear to begin with, maybe we should do that instead?
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. Hello, Internet. I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast. We do not talk about bleeding buttholes all the time. Just sometimes. Today we're going to be talking about video games. We like to change it up every once in a while. Today we're going to talk about video games.
But we are changing it up today because you know why? We've moved a year ahead.
We did! Yay, we're a year older! Woo! We do 10 years a year, maybe more?
Something like that. We age rapidly.
You know, it's really weird. I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but when we say, video games, I always think of not, the actual video games that we know. I think of, those awful games that were on DVDs in the 2000s, because it's on a video, and it's a game in a video. I'm like, why would you think of video games? It's like we need a better word for it.
Now you've got me, you've reminded me of the game Seen It, that old DVD game.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 2000s were a weird time, and we just jumped into them with this episode. We are now finally past the 1990s, and we are now into the magical year of 2000. And there's a lot of stuff that came out this year. We had to weed a ton of the stuff out.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, this is an empty part of my game resume. So I can kind of sort of help out Zach here, who is going to be doing most of the let me learn you parts about this important or just really cool and fun game you're missing out on, which is kind of what we do for these. These aren't just this is an important game that you should all know about and respect the history of. A lot of it's just I really like this game.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, a lot of good games are going to be coming out faster and faster as the years go on. Mm-hmm. It's just we're in a weird transition state. We just had the release this year of the PlayStation 2.
Yes, as of today, the top-selling home video console
of all time.
Video game. There I go again.
Yep.
Video game console of all time. Well, of all time up to this moment. I hate of all time. People shouldn't say that, but
no.
As of yet doesn't sound as exciting.
Yeah.
So whatever. The top-selling video game console as of yet is the PS2. The Switch is close. It might actually pull it off.
It might, depending on how much longer they support it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great stuff that's still being released for that puppy. But still, just imagine that. For as big as the video games are today, you go back into 2000, obviously it didn't sell everything by then, but the PS2, spoiler alert, isn't really exciting on release day.
Not really,
It's not even really exciting on its release year. It's going to get really good later.
Yeah, basically you're buying this for a cheaper DVD player.
Effectively, that's really what people were doing.
Yep.
Yeah, so and it's funny, the interesting history behind the PS2 and how it got so big. But even still, video games weren't as big as they are today. And imagine this console was in more people's homes than the Switch is today. You've got to think about that. And it's not even by a small percentage. The Switch is almost there. We're talking about millions more that it has to pull. This is a big deal. So yeah, it's basically a DVD player that happens to play games. You might as well get this one.
And the sad part was, it was hundreds of dollars cheaper than just a standalone DVD player.
I know, isn't that sad?
That is...
Somebody was screwing some customers with trying to make some expensive DVD players. But anyway, today we're going to try and go back to an older, a bit of a mashup of how we did these year formats visually, if you're watching the episode instead of just listening to it, which as of this moment, we are still not on Spotify, but I swear we're onto it. We found a thing that just might work. We just need more manpower and time. And this guy's knee is still, healing down here.
Oh, I've got to get surgery in the next 2 weeks, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, he's finally off work, though. Get him off this knee.
Yep.
Anyway, so enough of Zach's problems. Let's get the things that Zach actually enjoys. But anyway, visually, so...
Let's get to the stuff that matters.
We are we're gonna talk about games while looking through like pictures on Google Images. I'll move around and just pull up some examples and describe them to you, just in case we need some sort of visuals for it, because we're getting to the era where I can't just feasibly be playing every game we talk about, much less even just play one throughout, because like I'd mentioned before previously, this is a year where I haven't played most of these. There's probably only like 4 on this list that I've played, which is kind of sad, but I've played more of the other years. Trust me, some of the later ones, we're gonna have trouble. I'm not gonna be able to shut up.
I mean, I've got weird gaps in my gaming resume too.
We all do.
You know.
We all do. And when you literally go through like every game in history, you're gonna find gaps. And this is one for me. So instead of like trying to play something, Zach is actually gonna be playing some of Phantasy Star Online,
which hopefully you should be seeing on the screen as we speak.
You should have been seeing it, yeah, because it's something we can at least see moving of a game that is coming out this year. Now, this is technically a Sega Dreamcast title that is coming out this year, though you are playing the GameCube version, is that right?
No, I'm actually playing the PC release.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so, okay. No, I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of games to talk about today, and we know we go over time, so we're going to do our best to try and hurry up.
Yes.
Even though I know you love this game.
Absolutely. Well, here, why don't we start with you? What do you know about Phantasy Star Online?
Okay, so I could just tell you what little I know about Phantasy Star in general, what we've covered before, which is basically like, think Star Wars, but a little bit more cartoon fantasy, and making an open world-ish RPG, and using the online features that we can have with the Dreamcast and GameCube, if you're paying enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're basically kind of turning it into an MMO, is that right?
Basically, yeah. So with Phantasy Star Online, it was basically a hard reboot of the series. So the original chronology of the first 4 Genesis games, or the first 4 games, don't even worry about it. Not important.
Okay.
So the gist is, you are on the Pioneer 2, you have found a new planet, bad stuff happens on the planet.
As they do.
You're sent down to investigate. How so? Oh, you think we're going to be actually going down and exploring ruins, or what might have been this planet might have been like before? Nah, you're killing the wildlife. you're going down there and you're getting loot.
Oh,
and see that? Yeah. So that's what I love about this game. So this game took a lot of inspiration from RPGs at the time, and one of the biggest influences was the original Diablo. And what Diablo does really well is about going down into instance dungeons, getting more loot, getting more XP to level up to get better loot, and it's that familiar game.
It's the grind, yeah.
Yeah, it's that gameplay loop that I really love, which is very much on point here in this game. You go down to 4 different terrain types in the base game. The one we're seeing on screen, I think, is from episode 2. That's one of the...
yeah, assuming we came out of our video thing. I can jump around to show some screenshots of just, like, seeing different parts of the games. But yeah, so I'm seeing episode 1 and 2 popping up, so explain that.
So episode 1 was the original release of the game on the Dreamcast, which only came with 4 base areas. There was the forest, there was the mines, there was the temple ruins, and then there was someplace else, and it's escaping me, and I love this game. What is wrong with me?
But are they like semi-randomized? Is that how it's like?
So they are fixed maps, kind of, but your starting locations are, depending on when you go in, or if you're doing a mission, your starting locations are different. There's different gates that block your progress with different places to unlock them. So it's semi-randomized in nature about where you're starting and how you're progressing through the map.
It's almost like some of the later Monster Hunter areas.
Yeah.
Like when you play far enough and it'll just like spawn you in this location and you're fighting a monster that you have to figure out where it is.
And it's funny that you mentioned...
But you're using the old maps.
Yes, yes. And also some of the different enemy types can be randomized depending on your mission or which run you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up Monster Hunter, because this game is the first basically console online RPG.
Which is something we'll get into later with Monster Hunter. It's kind of why it was devised in general. Sony just really wanted people to play online.
Yeah, because they realized that was going to be the big push. Sega did this way before everyone, because they're like, oh, well, we're kind of floundering, but we realize that online gaming, which is kind of prevalent on PC or becoming that way, is probably going to shift to consoles, which is what we should focus on. So you can play with up to 4 players. There's the melee class, there's the range class, and the magic classes. and each of them you can get different loot types that are specific to them. Their stats are randomized based on not only your race, but your class as well.
Oh, it's not like Dragon Quest and your name also randomizes it too?
Right, no, it's not like that. Well, actually, no, your name does determine something.
Oh my goodness.
So, like, you get, like...
Oh my gosh, a very short side tangent about your name randomizing things. Did you hear about Majora's Mask?
No.
This very recently came out, like, in the past month or so. Somebody found... Well, month or so, as we record this, that's how we've mentioned how long it takes these to get online. So people have found out that based on your name, it determines the pattern of stars in the sky in Majora's Mask.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Oh.
Like, what stars, like, appear where and in what orientation, and, like, you have a unique sky in your Majora's Mask. Weirdly enough, we will get to that game. It comes out this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, funny, weird thing, and I would definitely not have brought that up later. But yeah, people do weird things with randomizing in-game things with your name.
The only thing that your name does is gives you a badge, which determines the drop tables for all the loot that you get throughout the game. So...
Okay, well, that's still... that kind of reminds me of what Monster Hunter did, and it was kind of irritating. Sometimes you might realize too late, oh, I just have a bad seed.
Yeah, so but the good thing is, especially with, like, private servers, which you can play this game on now, which is, I'm playing the Blue Burst version, which is the strict PC version.
We kind of mentioned a lot of that kind of stuff in our last episode, which was HITBOX Live, by the way. We spent a lot of time talking about emulation.
But it facilitates the need to trade, because, say you're playing as a...
They let you trade?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Monster Hunter needs that so bad.
Yeah, they let you trade. So it's like, say your drop table, you're playing as a hunter, which is the range class.
So, like, you'll have advantages over some other players?
Yeah, like...
Okay, so it's not like you just outright lose.
No, so, like, say your drop table is more about swords, but you don't use swords a lot because you want the guns that go shooty shoot. You go up to, you find another player online and you want to trade, say they need a specific weapon that dropped for you, you trade that weapon and they give you a good gun for you to go out and do harder missions.
That's nice. So originally in this game's Sega Dreamcast state, was this just like MMO style open to everyone, or did you have smaller servers like how it has to be today?
They had lobbies.
Okay.
So it was like I don't remember how many per lobby you could go to, but in each instance of the game that you go into supports only up to 4 players.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So
like,
it wasn't like overwhelmingly huge.
No,
of course,
it's
like
not,
we go into older games with these kind of standards, but this is one of the first games that's doing this, and I think on home console, is it the first?
It is the first home console.
Yeah, home
online
console, it is
RPG.
the first.
Yeah.
So yeah, this in terms of our influential award, just might be showing up later because this is a really big deal.
Yes.
And I'm sure you could talk about this game forever, but we have a lot of other things to talk about too. And at the very least, you will get to play some of this for the episode and have it show up on screen.
I'm in the 80s. I am nowhere close to the level cap in this game yet.
What's the level cap?
200.
Woo. Well, at least it's not like how I was playing. I just beat Dark Souls 2, and you know what the level cap is in the Dark Souls games?
It's like 101.
999.
That's great.
It's ridiculous. And you know how much like one little level up does nothing. After you pass 100. It's just it's insulting.
But yeah, it's a really good game, very influential. Talk more about it maybe at some point.
So anyway, the next thing we wanted to move on to, we kind of teased about before, is the PS2. Comes out this year. Yeah, yay! Even though nothing really of note comes out on it.
No.
Now, it's of course got, a library. It's not like they're bad games. It's just that the PS2 is not going to be known for any of these.
No, absolutely.
Though, to pick one, I thought like it was kind of wrong to have no PS2 on 2000 when we're talking about, the PS2 comes out this year. This is the biggest game console at this moment of all time
at this point in history.
At this point. So, to pick anything, I thought it'd be at least kind of justified if we talk about Armored Core here. Because we kind of skipped over the first one. So this is Armored Core 2.
Yep.
And the reason I thought this would be okay is because recently, From Software, who is making Armored Core, weirdly enough, I was just talking about Dark Souls, same group, they are actually making Armored Core 4. Like, it's 6? Gosh, I'm dyslexic on my numbers. Was it Roman numerals? Because that would make sense.
Numerals,
That's what does it to me. I swear. God.
No, it's okay.
But anyway, yeah. So they're making a new Armored Core.
Yep.
I haven't played these, as I just mentioned. I really want to.
Me neither.
Man, the new one looks really cool.
It really does. It really looks... it kind of gives me the vibe of, like, really classic mecha games, which is what these are. Mm-hmm. Like, they're nimble enough, but from what I understand, they're still kind of bulky, and you have, like, odd controls to kind of get that point across.
Yeah, on the PS2, I have played just of these, like, kind of mech things. I've played a few Gundam. I've played Zone of the Enders. And they're pretty good. I know the PS2 can do it, so I want to play more of these, and especially just because I feel like at this moment, From Software has just they can't make a bad game. So I feel like inclined to go back and try out these older things they've done.
Just go back with your expectations in check. This is not the Demon Souls, Dark Souls.
No, it's a different.
This is the odd FromSoft. And I kind of like old FromSoft, like the old Kingsfield and some of their other adventure games and stuff like Armored Core. Where they weren't afraid to like kind of try out new stuff at the time.
And I'm kind of glad they're going back to trying that too, and not like forgetting what got them to this point. It wasn't simply just, wow, we made this game called Demon Souls, and oh my god, that stuff was awesome. Let's make more. Which, I mean, it's working for them. It got them all the way through Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Sekiro. Yeah, so you mentioned you haven't begun to play Armored Core either?
No, I don't really have much to note on it other than...
It's on the PS2. It came out this year.
Which, you know, it's not really saying that much when you've got stuff like Evergrace. Who's here has heard of Evergrace?
I don't even know.
Exactly. So, I mean...
I could have pulled up the entire list of things that came out. I considered doing this instead, just like rapid fire reading the list going, who knows any of that stuff? But inevitably somebody listening is going to be like, that's my favorite game ever, shut up. And I'll be like, I didn't play it. So anyway, we're trying to be fair and justify and be like, PS2, we will come back to you, we promise.
Oh yeah.
Yes, as of now, the Armored Core 2! The Armored Core series exists. We didn't talk about it before, but there it is. Anyway, let's go back to Sega. Sega. So, this will come to the GameCube, right?
No, unfortunately never did.
It came to the West, though, didn't it?
It did. So
we're talking about Jet Set Radio. Sorry, I didn't explain what that was.
No,
I was asking questions.
Yeah, it came to the West as Jet Grind Radio, which...
What did that release on?
That was on Dreamcast. Only on Dreamcast.
So it's one of those that just... God.
Well, we did get the sequel as if you go to the second row, the red one, the red picture there, if you bring that up, Jet Set Radio Future, that's the sequel / partial remake for the Xbox.
Now, Kim played this and she loves this game.
Oh my god, I don't blame her. The Jet Set Radio games are phenomenal. So, how best to explain this game? It's basically
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, which also comes out this year. We mentioned it, and combining it with like a cel-shaded spray painty.
And I think this is like the first game that really popularized the cel shading technique for graphics, because I don't know of any other game before Jet Set Radio that did cel shading before
I'm trying
that.
To get like actual shots.
Yeah,
here.
that's actually from
here. There we go. I mean, this is a Steam version, but still, you can at least kind of see this.
Yeah, exactly.
Very polygonal.
It's a very punk game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a weird, like, it's that weird mix of like 90s...
rocket power.
Kind of, yeah. Like, it's got that very EDM dance music vibe to it, mixed in with like hip-hop and all that sort of stuff. And you're a gang member, and you're trying to like basically be the best gang in not Tokyo, totally not Tokyo. And you're evading the police, you're getting into battles of like graffiti and stuff against gang members. It's really arcadey, which is what Sega has always done well.
Yeah.
And it's also frenetic, and it's so full of just charm and just that sort of vibe that I don't think Sega has ever just really recaptured ever since the fall of the Dreamcast.
Well, Sega hasn't recaptured much after the fall of the Dreamcast. Though, instead, we traditionally like crapping on how Sega kind of plunked after this. Though, Sonic Superstars, that actually looks like it's got some promise of Sega going, hey, you know what? Old 2D Sonic, we can do that again.
Right.
And it doesn't look immediately like, what are you doing? Stop!
Right, it's not
I want to gouge out my eyes.
It's not Sonic Forces again.
Yeah, or Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which was a real thing. Which is probably why they stopped numbering them, because of that.
We only had Sonic the Hedgehog 3. What are you talking about? There was no 2.
Gee,
there was
I'm
no
telling
4.
you.
They stopped at 3.
This Mandela effect I have. Definitely don't Google it to prove me wrong.
There was not a 2-part release of 4. Don't talk silly. But anyway.
So you know, unfortunately, the first time that I was made aware of the Jet Set Radio series, so on the Nintendo Wii, there is a Sega tennis game.
Yes.
I didn't. I don't know how this ended up in my family's home. Honestly, I would never have picked this
It
out.
was a tennis game.
But there it was. We already had Mario Power Tennis, and that game's great. But we might have even had. Was there one on the Wii? I don't remember. It was the GameCube one.
Yeah.
I know we had was the GameCube one. But
yeah.
But still, like I already had a video game tennis game, and I'm like, not even whatever. So anyway, this shows up, and this dude's a playable character
on his roller skates.
Among obviously Sonic, Nights into Dreams. There's all sorts of I think Sega IPs. It's a weird game that like.
Yeah.
Anyway, that game is strange enough, but like this dude is in it, and that was my first taste of seeing who this guy was and what the series was, and now it's almost like the Hi-Fi Rush of the time.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, because Hi-Fi Rush really taps into that sort of, like, underground, like, indie kind of a scene.
Yeah.
Underneath, like, the corporate, you know, or the man, basically.
It doesn't seem... this is a very Sega game. It doesn't seem like it would come out
I think I mentioned
any other means.
I think I mentioned it last time, but Umurangi Generation, which I talked about, has a very similar art style to this, and that's the photography game that I was telling you about, which looks like this, and the whole premise is that you're supposed to kind of parkour or skate around to get good shots of the city and stuff. So, you know, if you have any interest in that in the indie scene, give that a shot. This is available on Steam. Yeah. Please give this one a go. I think you would like this if you're into really, like, action-y kind of arcade games.
Yeah, because it comes up a lot. A lot of people are thinking, younger people, much younger than us old geezers, thinking like, well, what reason do I have to go back and play any of these? Sure, it's interesting to like learn about their history if hopefully you're interested in something like that. I mean, otherwise, I don't know how you even got this far in this episode, much less this series. But I wish that people were more willing to give these old games a shot, to realize that you don't have to play a game that's new to have fun.
No,
not only that, like to appreciate what they were and what they did to the entire industry, because some of these are really great, and I still want to go back and revisit all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just kind of want to boot this game back up and be like, yeah, I want to hear a remix of Rob Zombie's Dragula again while I graffiti everything.
But anyway, moving on, we are still on the Dreamcast. We're going to try and chunk this out on consoles so we don't jump around too much.
Right.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, this is something that kind of spanned all sorts of... I think this was also in... I remember arcade machines of this.
Yeah, so it was an arcade release first.
Was still, yes.
But the way I knew it was from the Dreamcast release. And eventually the... not Virtual Console, but the eShop version on PlayStation 3 and 360. There was a version of that as well there.
I don't remember which version I got slaughtered in, but I definitely did play this one.
Yeah.
And I got slaughtered in it. I just had, you have like that one friend who's just like, Hulk smash, Hulk smash, Hulk smash, and we're like, okay, can we play a game, please? And that was the end.
We are playing the game. What are you talking about?
Exactly. That's how everything ended. And we're like, okay, well, if you're having fun watching me not be able to play a game with you, then...
I gotta teach you. This is how you gotta learn. You gotta lose before you get better.
So this is a fighting game.
Yes.
Where, actually, I really love this premise, though. You take a bunch of comic characters and smash them up with a bunch of video game characters. So you have a huge cast of Capcom and Marvel superheroes.
Exactly,
hitting each other. And you have teams.
Yeah.
It's a tag team fighter, kind of like the, is that Fatal Fury, or am I thinking of King of Fighters?
King of Fighters.
King of Fighters does like the tag team like swap out, and you have like I don't remember if this one you had like a main fighter and then like supports, or if everyone was just like swapping with a shared HP gauge.
No, everyone has their own HP gauge. So instead of having like rounds, you had fighters.
Right.
And the big strategy was
I remember now.
Yeah,
and you wanted to have like, so they swapped out their big heavy character, swapped your like little quick one, you can pepper them down or whatever. You try and strategize, which actually made this as a fighter, I thought, far more interesting than something like Street Fighter 2.
Exactly.
Where you're kind of just locked into it and just hit the person until they fall down.
Yep, and I think it was Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that had like the support special attacks from your other players.
That must be what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, when they made the jump to 3D.
Yes, everything was 3D in that
Because at this point, because it's still 2D art, I really loved the look of this game.
Yeah, the 3D backgrounds with the 3D, with the crazy...
Which I should probably pull some art of it up, but as you can imagine, just all sorts of...
Iron Man versus Strider and Ryu and all that.
Yeah, and you can see like who's in their reserves, Spider-Man, Chun-Li, Wolverine, Ryu. It can be like, it was a total mashup, and it was really fun just because of that.
Blackheart, Venom, Spider-Man, and
here's the character select screen. It's probably a good screen to pull up for this. Just to see, because it was also kind of unwieldy, but it was neat because it was like this big world, but I could never figure out like what I was looking at on this menu.
No, unless if you were like really big into both like kind of like worlds.
Yeah, and neither of them are like the top of their field. Like, I mean, Marvel's close. You know, it's
at the time,
Marvel was pretty darn big. It got much bigger
later on.
But Capcom, no. Well, for fighters, though. If you're using it for fighting stuff, absolutely.
I'm
much more interested in the other stuff, though.
Yeah, besides SNK, Capcom is the fighting game company.
Yes.
I would say. Because you've got stuff from Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, and like a few other ones that I have no idea about, versus, like you said, all the Marvel heroes and villains.
I know later on they started adding all the other ones, like there's Ghosts and Goblins, they even have Monster Hunter.
Phoenix Wright is also
Phoenix
available.
Wright.
Yeah.
They start getting crazy with silly characters. And
Mega Man.
Mega Man. Phoenix Wright being in there is the only reason I'm like, Smash Brothers, you can do it too.
They could have.
You can objection your way to victory. I know you can.
The judge was too strong.
But yeah, this looks very familiar. Just giant Hulk feet or smash and lasers. And this game is very visually over the top. It lets those characters be as insane as they should be.
Yeah, it kind of uses those flashy specials to be able to tell you more about the character themselves.
Yeah, which is half the fun of it. So, like, you don't even have to know who they are. If someone is just, like, funny or just, like, really cool and you're just, like, having fun playing with them, it was almost like an advertising trick to, like, get you into the other side. A very clever crossover that you would never expect, but it was a really cool game.
Yeah, so I would say, if you have a chance to play it,
it's much more fun with people, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't just like I would say that for like any fighting game.
Yeah, that's
play with other people.
Yeah, exactly. What do we got next?
So, Typing of the Dead.
Woo!
Zach insisted we talk about this today.
We need to have this game on there, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, Zach, explain to me why we have to have Typing of the Dead on here.
Okay.
Let me get a good shot of the typing.
So,
nostril oil, juicy larva, soda pop.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Question one, which is one tasty beverage? Definitely nostril oil.
Nostril oil is pretty tasty, let me tell you. So, Mavis Beacon teaches typing?
Yes.
Basically,
I have nightmares every night about Mavis Beacon teaches typing. Exclusively, my life has been much more painful than that. I swear, the worst of my grievances of my life has been Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
She just stares at you disapprovingly from the box as she watches as you struggle to
Which
type.
Honestly is, I don't want to side tangent this, but one of the worst ways to learn how to type. Because that was actually probably a good transition for you, if I can do this for anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was actually an educational game to try and teach you how to type. And it taught me to hunt and peck. Because and it was the point of the game to not do that, but for it to go so quickly and me having dyslexia, I was forced to do that and to go really quickly. And now I actually hunt and peck, that's idea, but really fast. I actually type faster than Kim does. It's bizarre. I can't really describe how my fingers work, but
I understand. I get you.
So but Typing of the Dead, however, is not really trying to teach you anything, because you might think immediately, why would you want to teach a bunch of grade school kids how to type when you're using House of the Dead IP, which was my question to Zach, and he responds with, I'll tell you in the video, it needs to go in.
Because it's cool. Honest to God, there is no other reason.
Wait, that's it?
So here's the thing.
That's it?
Okay, it's a joke game. It's kind of one of those...
Where can you drive? You can drive here from Texas. Brazil.
Okay, so here's the way it works, okay? Instead of having a gun, you actually have a keyboard strapped over your shoulders with a Dreamcast and a battery on your back instead of a gun. And in order to actually do damage to the enemies around you, it'll give you a prompt like you see on screen.
Yeah,
so it'll
who
say,
was born first? Socrates, your mom, or Washington?
Obviously, it's your mom.
Well, yeah, it's a your mama joke.
But
I'd be disappointed otherwise.
But you see, it lists it twice. One in yellow, which is your prompt, and the one in white, which is when you're
typing.
Yes. So it shows you what you need to do. And it tests your reflexes. It's basically just a typing test. And it's just a fun way to just kind of go through and just see what kind of silly sentences that you can do type.
Yeah, maybe it was the eggs with peanut butter. Is this one here?
Yeah, exactly. So, the enemies will have something like, I don't know, boogers, puke, apples, or something like murderous monkeys.
Yeah, it says daffodil, snapdragon.
Yeah, it's just silly stuff like that. And for the bosses, you're actually the one
you were making. We were seeing some there where you had a decision and you had to type out the answer.
Yeah, so it's the exact same format as the arcade game, but the bosses have been retooled to actually test your typing in a different way. Like the Hydra boss, it's actually a trivia game.
So is it actually the original House of the Dead game?
It is House of the Dead 2 entirely. gameplay.
I see. So it's no new anything. It's just this is how you shoot.
Exactly.
That's outstanding. So
It is outstanding.
I assume it's a one-shot kill when you
yes.
outside of bosses.
Outside of bosses, correct. Or like one of the other bosses in there is basically a giant zombified version of Jason Voorhees who's chasing after you with a giant chainsaw, and you're typing out a sort of stream of consciousness story. And when you get to the end of a sentence, you do damage, and he gets stunned, so you can get further away.
I see. So this really was intended for the age group of like teenagers and up.
Yeah.
That's so strange.
No, and it's a game you wouldn't think would work, but Sega made it work.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I had so little faith in it, I didn't even think it was worth it in the video.
I think
I haven't played it. That's another thing.
Yeah.
So you have.
Yes.
Okay.
I love this game.
Really?
I'm no good at it. My typing is terrible. See, I'm a touch typer. I was able to learn how to be able to do that. And it's kind of forgiving, at least, because it doesn't always expect you to type in capitalization.
Oh,
but
good.
if you don't have punctuation, it will ding you. Because when you start messing up typing, you'll hear like a gunshot ricochet instead of the gunshot actually firing and hitting an enemy.
Oh, so
that's how you know.
So if you mistype halfway through something, do you have to start the whole thing over?
No, you just have to realize your mistake and then go, oh god, I have to hit a comma, and then finish up.
Oh, or like...
Or you get hit. Because there's a little timer, like the box around the prompt goes from green to red, and when it
here's
flashes...
a good shot of that.
Yeah, so when it's red like that, the enemy's about to hit you and do damage to you, and you only have like 3 hits.
Yeah, flab wagon.
Yeah,
Which you have to type
flabwagon.
there.
Elementary, my dear.
Strike, you're out. So, yeah, all the sorts of silly little quips.
Yeah, and the one we actually have on screen is from the Typing of the Dead Overkill game, which Overkill was a Wii game that used the Wiimote to fire, and it was just a parody of like Grindhouse movies. They did the same thing with it. It's the exact same game, but you just use typing instead of just your guns. So...
Anyway.
I don't know. It's just such a strange game, and I love it. I can't help but love it.
Well, I hope this helped some people out there in the world.
I'm sure it did.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to move on. We have one more Dreamcast game to talk about before we move on to some other consoles. We have Grandia 2.
Grandia 2, one of my favorite Dreamcast games.
Zach, I don't know a darn thing about this.
You don't know a darn thing about Grandia? Well, that's
I know that it exists. And
it's not
hasn't
surprising.
it been brought back HD remastered?
Yeah, the Grandia HD package is available on Switch and PC.
Oh, hey, look at that. Right there. HD collection.
Ba-da-da-da.
Ba-da-da-da.
Wrong game, but still.
Yeah, that's the first one, but...
Well, it's got both Grandia 1 and 2 on it.
Okay, collection. Nice. Well, that should have been implied. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Grandia HD Remaster 1 and 2.
Yep, so it's available for PC and Switch. I think it's available for Xbox and PlayStation. I don't remember. But anyway, so...
Anyways.
Grandia 2 was... It's a very good RPG. How best to describe it? So it just basically took what was great about Grandia 1 and improved upon it. Where the first game is a perfect encapsulation of the spirit of adventure and growing up, and taking the perfect battle system, which is basically like the active time battle from the mid Final Fantasy numbered entries.
Yes, the entries, not the mid Final Fantasies.
No, that's 13. We don't talk about 13.
Yeah.
But anyway,
15.
15.
Yeah,
that's not
anyway.
That's not important. So it takes that and it just kind of improves upon it with a story all about dogma, what it means to actually follow a religion, and following things blindly, and that's kind of told between like the main love triangle between the main character Ryudo, who's voiced by Cam Clark, who also did the voice of Liquid Snake and one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that stuff. He's a phenomenal man.
He's fun.
And the other two characters, Elena and Millennia. Elena is supposed to be a member of the church who is supposed to help the land to purify it from the evil of the evil god there. Whereas Millennia...
I just realized why that was a screenshot. It's an out-of-context...
It is an out-of-context.
Oh, never mind. Inevitably, weird stuff's going to show up on screen. But I was trying to find Millennia for you.
Yep, and there she is. She is basically the personification of a part of the body of the dead dark god. And she gets involved with the party and helps you on your adventures.
They're both
and a love triangle forms between the three of them, kind of giving you like... Well, okay, is the darkness really the darkness as the dogmatic church says it is? Or is there more to it? What does it mean to have faith? Or what does it mean to just try to follow who you are? And I think it tells a pretty effective story. Probably not as effective as something like Final Fantasy Tactics, maybe. But Tactics is a thing in and of itself. So,
Yeah, we'll get there.
The combat is really fun. The dungeons are good. This is available for modern consoles, so anyway you can play it. Yeah, play it.
Nice HD remaster.
The HD remaster.
We don't get that enough.
No,
anymore.
we don't. We don't preserve our history like we should.
No, but darn it, we have Super Mario RPG, and it looks beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God. I think we talked about that earlier in '96 as well.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yes.
And just because of that new announcement, that may or may not just have to be my next Playing with Myself episode.
I don't blame you in the slightest. What do we got next?
Next, we are looking at Deus Ex.
Deus Ex.
We have moved over to PC games.
Woohoo!
We're going to be here for a little bit before we get back to consoles. Zach, I don't know a darn thing about this.
You don't know about Deus Ex?
No.
You don't know about... So, do you know the meme that goes, anytime someone mentions Deus Ex, a hard drive boots up to reinstall the game?
What? No, I've never... Why?
Okay, so this is the first this is the game that kind of popularized the idea of the immersive sim. So you play as a super secret agent, J.C. Denton, who works for the government in order to try to stop terrorists from basically doing terrorist things. You're just plopped into levels, and how you go about completing those levels is completely up to you. Do you want to be the stealthy, sneaky assassin type where you're hiding in the shadows, going through air vents and taking a silenced pistol and taking out your enemies from afar? Do you just want to go in guns blazing and just mow down everyone? Just don't care about asking questions, just take names? Or do you want to go in there and do you want to be a super special hacker man, which subverts some of the different security of the various levels that you can go through? It completely leaves it all up to you. And that's the beauty of the game. It tells a bit of a branching story where your choices matter in it. Depending on how you go about things, determines how NPCs react to you. It doesn't completely change the story totally. It still kind of has a set path for you. But it sets the tone, and it sets some different variations of the story that you go on. And you've got different weapons you can use. And the other thing I love about this game, you are a cyborg, so you can reset yourself with different augmentations, so you can see.
It's a way to RPG yourself.
Exactly. Yes. So you can get night vision, which helps you to see in the dark if someone cuts the power. There's different augmentations which allow you to basically hack into things faster. If you need to get through a security door, you can do that. Or heck, even if you don't want to do that, say you just want to get the best guns you can, you get a silent sniper, and you see a security camera off in the distance looking around, you can take your sniper and take it out from afar, just eliminating that threat in particular. And it's just so open, and it just lets you express yourself in most ways you can think of in terms of an espionage game.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and this came out in 2000.
Well, obviously.
And so, but you know what I mean, though? It's no, what other games really did something like that back then?
Yeah, the closest you really had was
System Shock 2.
Yeah, everything we had, the closest gameplay-wise we have at this point is probably Half-Life, but it's so linear.
Yeah.
It's you have to go through, occasionally you have to sneak through some vents, you have to shoot the guys, but it's scripted points where you have to do it levels.
Yes, exactly.
So if this is a giant open, almost like a Hitman or a Metal Gear.
Yeah, it predates Hitman actually by a little bit, yeah. So because each story mission is an open zone. So one of my favorite missions early on in the game is that you're told that the terrorists are using the subway in order to be able to get to a certain base of operations. You're just dropped off on the pier of New York City, and you're just trying to, it's you're not told how to, but you just got to figure out what's the best way to get down into the subway without alerting too many people. My way that I did it, I talked to a bunch of homeless people that were out on the street, and they said, oh yeah, man, there's totally a way that we use to get around the city quickly underground. So I found a secret door underneath a dock that I was able to hack into.
It's actually really cool. You can just it's almost like the most immersive type of sim that you solved it yourself.
Exactly. Or if you really wanted just to go down into the subway and take a rocket launcher with you and just blow up everyone? Yeah,
so, is everything kind of prearranged and scripted like Majora's Mask when you walk in a clock town? This person is going to walk at this point in time.
Yes.
So when you reload the level, it's just going to behave the same. So you can just kind of learn who's going where.
Exactly, yeah. So the enemies will have set patrols. Certain NPCs might move depending on the mission, but usually they'll kind of be in place. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know how they got away with this way back in 2000. you got to think, like, this game was in development for, like, maybe a year or two before it was released. So that was, like, some really forward thinking back then.
Yeah.
Warren Spector, the guy who basically helmed this game, who is basically seen as another big auteur in the video game space, just made such a glorious game with this that, unfortunately, not too many other Deus Ex games that come out later in the series even hold a candle to this one.
I can see that happening. This looks like the kind of fodder where its original concept is going to be lost immediately, and it's just going to be turned into, I would assume, first-person shooter generic levels, just to make the graphics look better.
That's what Deus Ex 2 does.
Yeah, something has to compensate, and a lot of newer games do this too, where they tend to compensate where they want their graphics to look, you know, up to 4K, reach 60 frames per second, and they want the textures on the bottom of your shoe to look incredible. They want the blowing of the grass to be perfect. But where's the gameplay? Exactly. I want to be able to walk into that room and, you know, figure out how to solve this one level 20 different ways.
Yep, exactly.
That's the fun part. But if you cut that out and say, like, oh no, you're actually just supposed to shoot these set things, and if you don't do what you reset, you kick back to a checkpoint.
Or just follow this NPC to this point and then take out the bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah, see, we lose something really important with that. And unfortunately, a lot of older games, this tends to happen. So where, like, I feel like the proof of concept is just eroded eventually, where the modern game community tends to just go graphics. And I'm sorry, that's like the least important part of a video game.
I mean, you have to have it to have a video game, but it should not be the main
Atari
priority.
games function.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like... I mean, obviously, I would say, like, go back to NES is probably, like, my tolerance. Anything under that, I'm like, all right, I don't want to have to, like, use my imagination too much to figure this. I want to see what I'm doing.
I mean, I'll play Yar's Revenge for maybe about 20 minutes max before I want to move on to something else.
But yeah, the proof of concept, unfortunately, being lost. But yeah, Deus Ex, that actually sounds really cool. You're tempting me in this one.
Oh yeah, no, it's usually on sale quite often. Square Enix actually puts Deus Ex series on sale, so you can get that game for like $1.
I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
That's very tempting. It might have to be a nice little dabble day off for me eventually.
Good.
So sticking to the PC, we're going to move to another series that is actually, well, I was going to say still being popular, doing some good stuff, but Deus Ex, that transition didn't work quite as well as it did in my head, but that's not my fault. We're talking about Diablo.
Diablo 2, baby.
Diablo 2. We're hearing a lot about Diablo 4. Have you gotten to try that one?
No, because they're recommending that you have a solid state drive, and I'm using fast HDD drives. Yeah. Which, when I am going to save money to upgrade my PC, and then once I do that, I might get Diablo 4, but it's just... That's a topic for another day. I do want to try it, but...
Yeah, supporting New Blizzard is...
hard.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, it was
Diablo
a no-brainer.
2. Yeah.
So...
These guys were pros at what they were doing back then.
Absolutely. So with Diablo 2...
we're some good shots here.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, some of the pictures we're looking at is a HD remaster-ish version of...
the Resurrected Edition.
Yes.
Yes, so it's going to have HD graphics, nicer animations, and some tweaks to the game itself.
So if you're going to play it today, this would be the version.
Yeah, you can go to battle.net and download and buy this game.
Which is actually where this link is from.
Exactly. So with Diablo 1, what Blizzard did was basically set up a very good hub system where you start out in one city and then you just keep going down into the same dungeon for different characters and just repeat all the time. With Diablo 2, they wanted to go a little bit bigger. So we have big zones where you kind of follow a general path, but they are huge and you can explore them, and they're demon-filled, monster-filled. You can find champions out in the wild. And each one, there's like, I think 3 acts in the base game, and the expansion that would come the next year, Lords of Destruction, adds a 4th, which concludes the story. So you've got 4 giant acts, which tell a really cool story about the war between angels and demons in the world of Sanctuary.
Just trying to get a relevant picture. It's about as good as I can get.
Yeah, I was going to say, so... you're just a dude who's going through, just trying to survive, and you're kind of like watching as things happen, which is my big complaint looking back on this game now. The cutscenes back then were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there was a thing called like Blizzard money or something like that, where it's like they would just splurge it on their CG cutscenes, and it showed.
Yeah.
The animation was stellar. Everything was good about it.
You're trying to get a shot.
Yeah, so the main gameplay loop of level up, get new skills, kill monsters, get better loot, get more levels, get better loot, raid, all that stuff. it's still in effect for Diablo 2, but it's on just a grander scale where you're going all across the world of Sanctuary, from the marshes to the deserts to the mountains, and just trying to stop Baal from resurrecting Diablo, his brother, and just trying to basically screw everyone over. And with Lords of Destruction, the third demon lord is a threat somehow. I don't remember, but anyway, it's a phenomenal expansion to a really good game, and basically set the template for what action RPGs would be, including Diablo 4, which just came out recently, like you said. Where with Diablo 4, what we got out of that is a huge open world. So instead of like open zones, everything is connected.
Oh, that's fun.
So you can go to high level areas and just get mode if you want, or if you want to go through and just try to get some high level equipment.
Yeah, can you make death runs?
I think so,
Do you keep your stuff if you die?
I believe so, yeah. You just lose like 10% or 5% of your total experience earned that level.
Fair.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get better gold or better
you know
equipment.
where to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a really good game. You can get the resurrected version, which you can actually switch between the original graphics mode and the new graphics mode, like on the fly.
I love that.
Yes.
I played Secret of Monkey Island that way.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
I know. I sent it back like every time there was like a new character or like some like cutscene or new thing that was happening. I was like, oh yes, I got to see the original one. I'm gonna see this.
Yeah. So
great.
Yeah, good game. I really enjoy this one.
We still have some more time on the PC before we move on, and honestly, we're only about halfway, and we gotta move because
I'm trying.
I know. The Sims happens this year.
The Sims. I'm not a big fan of The Sims, but it's such a huge franchise.
Yes, Kim loves The Sims.
So this is from Maxis. This is from Will Wright, the same guy who created SimCity and would go on to create Spore, which is a thing in and of itself. So the whole point of The Sims is that there really isn't a point. It's a life simulation.
Yeah, but you're not the one playing it. You're the one manipulating it, like the roller coaster tycoon god. Just like watching down from above them, recommending that they go this way to do this one thing, talk to that one person, and try and get people into relationships, get them to fight, and level up stats. It's
even then you don't have direct control. You're just suggesting it to them.
Exactly. Yeah, they could choose not to get that one job or try and buy this thing that you want them to have in their apartment,
or they just want to pee in the sink for no good reason.
Pass out in a movie theater because they decided to like hit on girls all night or something. You can basically tell them to do anything and they'll do whatever they feel like it.
Yep, so like it's kind of basically like just a relaxation game kind of almost, unless if you're really trying to go in and create the best sim you can.
If you relax by telling people that they should do something and making recommendations and they don't listen to you, then this is the game for you.
Yeah.
If you find that relaxing, do you work in customer service? This is your job.
Well, the other thing too is that there's more to it than that. Just like telling your Sims what to do.
I should grab some shots here.
Yeah, because like you've got the ability to actually build a house, so you can act as an interior designer. You can create some really cool features like a multi-story house. You could spend all your money at once, like getting a huge 36-inch tube television, which will be heavy as all get out.
Yeah.
You can just make it to where their house is nothing but a bathroom and a bed. That's it.
Yep. That's pretty much how you start.
Yeah. And then you later on in and this is the thing that The Sims is also known for, the massive amount of expansion packs. The mountains of them, because that's how Electronic Arts.
Isn't it? Yeah. So
this is after
you should probably already start looking at this like, oh, this is the greediest company.
Yeah, because it's like, this is after Maxis was bought by EA, and they're like, you know what? We can add more stuff to this game and make more money on this game.
More money.
People will buy it. And people did. Still do. For each and every single Sims game. I don't know what's wrong with you all.
I don't understand.
Oh my god, but still, it's not a game for me. But I can totally appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, I feel like this needs to happen so that other developers can see this and go, oh, I never thought of having my character do this one specific thing. And it might, like, they just might take, like, little tidbits from Sims.
Yeah.
Just to, like, recontextualize how you make, maybe even just AI work in your games, or just get people to function, or NPCs.
Exactly.
This really is a game of NPCs. You aren't actually playing as someone, which is the thing that is the disconnect for me that made me kind of like, even still, if you actually played as somebody, it's kind of Animal Crossing.
A little bit, yeah.
You might, and I'm not a fan of Animal Crossing either. I feel like I would lose interest immediately. But if Kim was here, she would be guacamole and saying all the weird Sims talk.
Yeah,
exactly. But anyway, just in the spirit of letting Kim at least say that, there we go. Well, let's move on. And bada boom, there it is. We're looking at Counter-Strike. I was going to say, we're not done with PC yet. I didn't think so.
No, I've got a lot going on in my head, and I just forgot this game that I've never played before, but it's very important.
It is important, but I've not played it either.
I can tell a little bit about the history and what it means.
Very briefly. Let's do it.
So this started out as a mod to Half-Life.
Looks it.
Yeah, very much so. But it became such a phenomenon with people, even those who didn't like Half-Life, that eventually Valve bought the indie dev team who created the mod and said, hey, make this into an official game. We'll give you the money. And it's like, okay. So they were absorbed into Valve, and they released it as a Counter-Strike. I think it was called 1.6 at the time. And because of this, we have Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and now we have Counter-Strike 2 on the horizon. And that's all I know about it. It's fun to watch. Like, I've actually watched people competitively play this, and holy crap, people take this game seriously.
Yeah. Just don't get your hopes up for Counter-Strike 3.
No.
It's owned by Valve. It ain't happening.
No, absolutely
They can't
not.
do that.
I'm just lucky. We're just
or
lucky
even if they did, just imagine they did. Just how insulting that would feel. Like, come on. Come on now, Valve.
Before Portal 3.
Before Half-Life 3.
Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3, sure, whatever. But honestly, like, I don't know how it would be to go back and play this, because you've got Global Offensive, and now the second game will be coming out soon.
It's more of an important thing, like, almost like a story of the year, kind of like another game that we actually cut from this, just to say that it happened, to make you feel happy. Daikatana happens this year.
Daikatana,
It's an interesting little story. We could probably have an whole episode just talking about what happened and maybe just the hubris of video games.
Yeah, Ion Storm was such a promising developer, but John Romero kind of ran it all into the ground.
You know, maybe just like an episode on video game failures could just be interesting. Just the interesting things we learned from catastrophic bombs.
Yeah,
but for now, that's not what this game is. And we talked about Counter-Strike, so there we go. Anyway, hey look, Majora's Mask!
Majora's Mask!
I told you we were going to talk about Majora's Mask today.
Oh wow, look at that. I'll let you have the floor for this one.
I've played this one, Zach.
I know you have. Why don't you tell the good people at home all about it?
So, you know what's funny?
What's that?
This game, a Legend of Zelda title for the N64, releasing after Ocarina of Time, very soon after Ocarina of Time.
2 years,
is effectively taking almost all of its assets, its sound effects, and even its music, and it is still unique and interesting and completely new.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, really. I mean, because you gotta think, video games didn't take like 7 years to make like they do now.
Exactly.
If something
Things had to be churned out immediately.
Well, the thing was, if it wasn't ready in a year, then it's either A, in production trouble, or B, just not happening.
And to be fair, some of the visuals, before I start clicking on stuff, it's probably going to jump back and forth between the 3DS HD remaster of the game.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. You can play that version. I played, let me see, I actually don't think I hands-on played it on N64. I played the original on the GameCube pack-in promo disc. That's how I played it first, and then I played the 3DS one after that. So I still played quite a bit of this game. And honestly, you know what? I also, just out of curiosity, emulated it just to see what I could like do to mess with the game. I clearly owned the software, so who cares? Yeah. So I just wanted to see like what happens if I let Link fly over Clocktown's walls, and just like started breaking the game, doing weird things. What if I was Fierce Deity outside of the final battle? You know, this game is so interesting because, and I should probably explain how this functions.
Yes.
Story-wise, the moon is falling in 3 days. And Link has to basically use his time travel abilities and all sorts of other powers that he's going to get from the Ocarina of Time that he has from the Ocarina of Time. And use those to defeat 4 dungeons to get 4 giants to all converge on the point where the moon is going to fall and stop it from falling so Link can effectively go inside and defeat the final boss, Majora.
Yep.
But because it is all this scripted 3-day thing, and why I brought it up earlier with Deus Ex,
yes,
everything every little thing is coded and predetermined.
Yep.
So characters will go about their business. For this entire 3-day period, every single character is doing something at all times.
Which is really phenomenal when you think about the hardware this is on.
I know, and the game is shorter than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
But there's so much content packed into this. Like, you could probably speedrun it in less time. I don't know, speedrunners are insane. Glitchless, how about that? Glitchless.
Okay.
Probably. But there's so much content you can do in this. And just, like, honestly, I don't even think I beat the Swamp Temple on my original run, and I had, like, 50 hours in this game.
Oh, wow.
I was just, like, doing everything else. Like, figuring out, like, trying so many times, like, to get the, what's his name? Kifi Cafe?
Oh, Cafe, yeah.
Yeah, his whole...
And Anju.
Yeah. That enormous quest that spans all 3 days to work. Get as many masks as I could. Just doing all sorts of side quests. It was so rewarding to do things, because there was, like, basically, instead of getting new items, you would get masks. And these masks are basically, like, sometimes power-ups, sometimes they let you into new places. They were always interesting in ways that you would, like, something that's, like, not in Ocarina of Time. It's just all brand new stuff.
Yeah, because one of them turns you into a Zora, the other can turn you into the Deku Scrub.
There's transformation ones.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, because with those two, each of them have their own different instrument in order to be able to play different songs.
The Goron has bongo drums.
And a couple things for me, real quick.
What happens if you're a fierce deity and you pull out your ocarina?
I don't know. See, I never beat this one. This is one of those weird gaps in my Zelda play.
It's great. It's great.
But I'm
trying to replay it again on 3DS recently, but yeah, it's been a very long time since I've actually gotten to beat it.
But there's like 3 things that really pop out to me about this game. One of them, it introduces Best Boy Tingle.
Yes, it does.
It does include Tingle.
Kululimpa!
Kululimpa! Hello, Mr. Fairy. That guy.
Crazy map maker.
But let's see. One of the other things I enjoy about this game, too, is that some items are permanent, but a lot of others are not.
Yeah, so if you reach the end of the time and you're forced to avoid a game over and play your ocarina and get back to the beginning of the first day, you will lose, like, your rupees, your bombs, arrows, Deku Nuts, things like that, the expendable things, but you will keep your masks, which is why a mask is so precious. And, weapon upgrades, you get a better sword, you get a better shield. You will keep those. Obviously, heart pieces, magic meter increases, things like that.
But it's like, this is one of those rare time travel stories that I don't have a big problem with.
Yeah, it now technically, like, it doesn't really work because Link should be running into himself. But I don't care.
It's kind of a reset almost.
Yeah, and also based on the ending of the game and really the beginning, I'm pretty sure this is all happening, like, in a dream. Like, this is in his head.
Yeah, I've heard theories that this is actually about the stages of grief in terms of death.
It's a very dark game, too.
Yeah.
This is a scary game. Like, we're probably going to bring this up. I have a plan for a Halloween episode.
Okay.
That we'll eventually do, of games that are not intended to be, like, horror or scary, but just freaked us out as kids.
I think this is way darker than something like Twilight Princess.
I think this is the darkest Zelda game.
Yeah,
it's freaky, and there's a lot of really sad bits. Here's your boy Tingle.
Yeah, there he is.
Some of these shots are in a reasonable resolution.
But the last thing I want to mention too is that the way that time travel is used to try to progress the game reminds me an awful lot of a bunch of indie games recently that have come out that really focus on time travel used as a means to solve puzzles. I forget.
The new Prince of Persia's doing it.
Yep, new Prince of Persia's doing it. But it's one where you are solving a murder mystery, and you keep going back in time in order to figure out everyone's schedules, because everything is scheduled just like this game is, where NPCs are going to be doing this and that at certain times. Like, one's going to go murder another one at this time, but at this time, someone's going from their room to the ballroom for a party.
Which also sounds just like Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective.
Yes, exactly.
Which is coming back on the Switch.
I am so happy for that.
Buy that game, guys. Don't let it suffer a second time. But it's way too charming.
This game, it seems like it's got a pretty big reach in terms of its influence, especially for people now.
Majora's Mask?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I honestly, when I saw that Breath of the Wild's sequel was going to be reusing a lot of the assets, the models, the music, everything, I thought immediately, oh my gosh, they're doing another Majora's Mask. I'm so excited. This is going to be darker. They're going to add so many new, like, quirks and completely flip the game on its head like they did on the N64. And that didn't happen. And I am indescribably disappointed.
Yeah, I still need to...
Maybe, not to rip on Tears of the Kingdom, to the credit of Majora's Mask, that's how big this was on N64 that they did it. And when you would expect nowadays, if someone's going to recycle all this stuff, it's going to be a cheap cash grab. That is the antonym of this game.
Exactly.
But we got to move on at one point.
Yep.
As much as I want to talk about it. Because it's so interesting. It's such an interesting game.
Yeah, right.
And I've still not reviewed it yet. But anyway, Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark.
This is an interesting one. This is actually one of Kim's favorites back when N64. So, weird story. If you guys know of a little GoldenEye 64, the James Bond game, this is technically a sequel to that, where Rare is losing the rights to James Bond and trying to create their own IP to cover their own butts.
And wow, did they do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
The only complaints I have about this game, honestly, is the performance.
Yeah.
Because if you do not have the expansion pack, you can only play multiplayer. You can't even play single player, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah. So...
I don't know what Kim has then.
She should have the expansion pack in hers, which would be, for those who don't know, is like there's a jumper pack that goes into the front of the N64. The expansion pack is a red capped one that goes in that adds more RAM.
I see.
So the thing with Perfect Dark is, like you said, it's very much like GoldenEye 007, where it's a mission-based kind of open level designed first-person shooter, and you're playing as Joanna Dark. Perfect Dark. And you're basically in this weird cyberpunk kind of future that involves aliens, mega corporations, and ancient technology.
It's weird.
It really is, but that's kind of what Rare did at best at the time.
Yes.
Just this really weird, metatextual, kind of playful games. Even when they kind of go serious for an M-rated game like this one.
Yep, they still just want to do the bizarre stuff. And unfortunately for Perfect Dark, this series kind of got cursed after this point. They kept getting, like, sequels that just weren't quite right, or weird art directions.
I tried Perfect Dark Zero, the sequel that was launched, was a launch title for the 360. It's not that good.
I heard. And then most recent news, as in 2020, there was a big announcement of a reboot of Perfect Dark. And the trailer looks really cinematic and gorgeous, but we've still not heard anything yet. And in fact, I think just like a couple days ago, it was in the news, as of recording, that this game is supposedly still in its infant stages.
It's years out.
What? So
why bother even bringing it up then?
Well, and that's another thing with this. There's a lot of acquisitions and purchases of this. The Rare was then bought by Microsoft, so it was Microsoft's responsibility, and all of a sudden, like, things are flip-flopping, so things got weird. And then, like, the development team that was supposed to be doing the new one was switched around, I think, but... And this is all supposedly from leaks, because of course no one's going to come out right and tell us insider information of unreleased products.
That's bad PR.
It is. Yeah. So, it's still a really good N64 game if you really enjoy GoldenEye, because a lot of people talk about, like, GoldenEye as this great thing. Like, it was such a big deal when it hit NSO, and I would think Perfect Dark would, gameplay-wise, be the better game, but...
It kind of is, especially in the multiplayer function, because there's so much personality and there's so much you can mod in order to make the different matches play out differently. It's available, I believe, on the Rare Replay for Xbox as well.
I'm not positive.
If not, there was a 360, so it's backwards compatible at least. There was a 360 port to it that uses modern controls.
Yes.
So, play that version. And you can still have a grand old time.
Yes.
What do we got next?
N64, we are talking Paper Mario!
Paper Mario!
All right, so speaking of Super Mario RPG, this is sort of a sequel to that, but they're trying to make you forget about Mario RPG because they had to work with Square Enix to do that. And that's obviously kind of unfeasible over time. Supposedly, even though we have a gorgeous, I don't even want to say HD remake, remaster. Yeah. It's like a new game, but it's like using the isometrics. It's gorgeous. I don't want to geek out over it. But Paper Mario. was basically trying to take what Super Mario RPG was.
Yes.
And the big brilliant thing from that, if you don't remember from the previous episode, because we did talk about that game.
We did.
Was you will get into turn-based battles when you run around on the overworld. And you'll see the enemies scuttling around, get you into a turn-based battle, and you'll, in that battle, have opportunities to do different types of Mario-themed jumps and attacks and whatnot, but they're all timed on button presses.
Yes.
Or like you want to get a good block on something, or you want to like charge up a hammer swing, or try and jump, and time your buttons so you can keep damaging the enemies over and over. And that keeps the turn-based really engaging and fun.
It does, yeah. So, and that's just it. So, like, it's a big RPG that each has its own little zone, and like you said, the combat is, I think, probably the big highlight of this game.
Yes.
So, like you said, there's different attacks themed around Mario. So his hammer returns from Super Mario RPG, where you can follow a prompt on the screen, like you hold the control stick to the side and let go to do better damage.
Yep.
You press the A button in time in order to be able to keep jumping on an enemy if you have badges. And that's the other big thing about this game. The badges, which allow you new and different powers and moves you can use in the field. And you have certain amount of badge points at your disposal to kind of customize how Mario works.
Kind of like MP.
Yeah,
like flower points. I think it was.
Yeah, flower points.
Yeah, flower points from Mario RPG. So it's very clearly like taking a lot from that.
And the partner system is also another big thing.
Lots of like cute characters. And this is the thing that people complain about modern Paper Mario, and they say that the old ones are better. They're mostly talking about this. They're talking about the Super Mario RPG gameplay aspects, which for the most part get completely dismantled the longer we go. But also the creativity of new characters.
Yes.
Even if it's just like in the background of this one, adding a hat on a Goomba.
Yeah.
Give him a personality, give him a name. That's the kind of stuff that this does. And just letting other characters be characters is something that like adds a lot of charm to this. On top of the fact that everything's paper. We didn't mention this. Everything's two-dimensional, and for some reason that's a big element of the game. As we go forward, they'll do more creative things, mostly with the paper gimmick and not so much with everything else that we talked about.
And the other big thing I want to mention real quick with the partner system is that they not only have different utility in battle, but in the overworld as well. So like when you're solving dungeons, you have Cooper there, where you can jump on him and you can send his shell flying when you kick it. And so say there's a switch across a gap you can't quite jump across, he'll hit it for you and activate it. Goombario, who we saw earlier, will actually tattle on the enemies and tell you their stats for you and record it in a logbook. And each little character has varying degrees of usability in the overworld, but the point is, they're more than just literal paper cutouts.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's, I think, the thing that gets lost in translation as the Paper Mario games go on.
Yes, and this is unfortunately a Nintendo thing of feeling like
you
need to reinvent the wheel when you make a new version of a game. And it's almost like, because Nintendo loves to do this thing where they try to come up with a new gimmick for each game.
Yeah.
For better or worse, usually worse. But in this case, it's almost like they looked at the core of what made Paper Mario so great, or really what made Super Mario RPG so great.
Yeah.
And they seem to have thought that was the gimmick, and they cut that out and tried to put in some other thing in and present it to fans as Paper Mario.
Right.
And that's kind of what is making people so testy.
Yeah, but with this game, they took the best aspects of Super Mario RPG and distilled it into a very family-friendly package.
Yes. Now, this is playable on NSO, correct?
Yes.
I don't have the N64 package, so I'm not sure.
But I believe that this is one of the games that's due to drop on NSO soon.
Yeah, if it's not there already, you should be able to play this one. I can't imagine they would not let you have this one.
And I will say, it says 2001 on this image. That's when we got in the States, but it released in Japan first.
Yeah, we've mentioned this. If we're looking at a game's anniversary, we want that to be the year that we talk about it, because otherwise we're talking about things too late, and then on the previous episode, which could be like, a month and a half by the time you get to the next one. Yeah, we decided on this a long time ago, just to make sure that we're clear, because it will say 2001.
But yeah, you can play it if you feel like giving Nintendo way more money than they need for this subscription service.
Yeah, or if you can find some other way, if you own the software, but it's not a really easy one to get your hands on, then you could just
not anymore.
I
got it loose over a decade ago, and that cost me $40 loose. So
I'm not
can't imagine what it is now.
No, but anyway, we are still on the N64. It is rocking this year.
Oh,
well, here's Rare again with Banjo-Tooie.
Banjo!
Didn't think we would actually be talking about this one. Probably not going to spend as much time on it, honestly.
No.
Because this, unfortunately, is going to be the last mainline Banjo-Kazooie. We do have other Banjo games.
Yeah, but there's no
Banjo
main
3E.
entry.
Even
No.
at the end of didn't at the end of Banjo-Kazooie they say wait till Banjo-Tooie?
Yes, and
Meaning
even
Banjo,
in this game,
yeah,
too.
and then at the end of this one they say, well, wait till Banjo-3E.
I will get my revenge on you, Banjo. It's like,
Which never, of course, never happened.
No.
It's one of those games like Metroid Dread that I can imagine if this was ever announced, it would be just as big as Metroid Dread, saying it's time for Banjo 3E.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a great name, doesn't roll off the tongue, it still
Who cares?
Doesn't matter. So, as a game though, I don't know about you, but I 100% prefer Banjo-Kazooie over this one.
I absolutely prefer Kazooie over Tooie.
Yeah. This isn't bad. It's just
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's just a step down, even though, like, in terms of gameplay, in a lot of other regards, this is definitely a step up. Like, the environments are bigger, there's more stuff to do. But something doesn't feel right, and it's kind of hard to put my finger on it.
Let me put out the good qualities first.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I think one of the big strengths of it, and also a big weakness of it too, weirdly enough, is the absolute scale of the game.
Yeah, it's huge.
And which, at the time, was impressive, because this is at the time in video games where bigger is better, and it doesn't matter how they do it.
You know, you say this was the time, but...
Well, that was the thing.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
again,
it's a thing today,
again,
too.
Yeah, I know.
That needs to stop. It's clearly a bad thing.
It is, but...
Anyway.
The clear scale of it, which is really good and kind of awe-inspiring at first.
Ooh, gotcha.
One of the other big things I love about it, where with Banjo-Kazooie, when you collected all the notes in a level, it only saved your highest score in the original version of the game. It respawned them as soon as you were done. In this one, it actually saves to memory which ones you've collected.
Luckily, newer versions of it, I think like the Xbox version will fix that.
Correct. And the other thing, too, is that they actually...
I don't know about NSO.
No, probably not.
Yeah, who knows?
I think it's just going to be the base versions, the original 64 versions.
Yeah, I'm going to see if they'd even
updated.
But yeah.
But the actual collectibles are actually not scattered everywhere, so you're not searching the area for that one last freaking note you thought you found, but they're like little nests. So you can find your eggs, you can find your feathers, and the notes in the same place. The levels are actually pretty interesting mostly. You have a mine western-themed area, you have a theme park, you've got Gruntilda's factory where she's like producing the energy for her death ray that's going to take out everything because she's a witch, whatever. Yeah. And honestly, just some of the other like playful references I really do like. However, my big takeaways are, again, its scale. After a while, it just gets tiring to go back and forth through so much of the level.
Yeah, you realize you need a transformation, and now you have to go way back to Mumbo Jumbo.
Yeah, when your level is so big, it needs teleportation pads to get you everywhere.
Yeah.
That's when it's too big for me, especially for a collectathon like this.
Yeah, see, the Banjo-Kazooie worlds were all like that perfect Mario 64 size.
Yeah,
and like it was self-contained enough that you could kind of remember, oh yeah, I was down there, I already did that thing, I should have picked up all those notes, I'm over here now.
Right, whereas with this, some of the levels are interconnected. So you can't just complete a level and be done. Yeah, you get lost.
I got lost a lot in this.
I did too. I had to have one of my friends who played this all the time when he was a kid help me to beat the game.
Just kind of a shame.
It is. And I think the last thing that I don't like about this game is the tone. Like it's kind of
much darker, but it's still kind of cutesy playful, yeah.
It's mean-spirited.
Yes,
almost.
Yes.
I think that's the
poor
biggest...
Bottles is killed, and I mean killed in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's played off like a joke.
Yeah.
I remember watching this, like, as an adult. I wasn't even a kid playing this, like, that was awful.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's just like, yeah, they're, like, trying to cheat at poker with him or something like that, and they all, like, leave him to die in the room because a bomb's coming or something.
Yeah, because Gruntilda blows up the house.
Yeah. Like, okay. And it's stuff like that. It's filled with, like... Now, the first one had, like, its silly dark humor, but not that far. It's like stepping a little too far.
Like, the status it got in Kazooie's with Clanker, the garbage disposal shark, you feel bad for him, but that's because Gruntilda's the bad guy, and she's putting him through this.
Right.
Whereas
he just floats there. Yeah.
Whereas with this, no, that's not the way it works.
It's very in your face. There's like this military mole who's teaching you everything, and it's a lot of stuff. I don't want to like complain about this one because unfortunately this is kind of the end of the Bear and the Bird, unless we're
Yeah.
talking about like nuts and bolts.
No.
Though there was a Game Boy Advance game,
that's
Grunty's
okay.
Revenge, I think. Yeah, that we would still get like Banjo Pilot. It's not like they completely abandoned the IP. And for some reason nowadays, all we seem to get are stuff like this that's popping up. Just new figures and toys and stuff to collect.
Selling us on nostalgia.
Yes, make new stuff. Don't just make new plush toys and box.
I will admit that little plushie was cute.
Of course they are. That's how they get you.
I know.
Make a game. Don't just keep doing this. Anyway, we got to move on. We are way over time already.
I know.
So, almost done with the N64, I swear. Pokemon Stadium. Now we're not going to spend too much time on this. This is important that it comes out this year because this is if we're talking about like one game that probably dominated the year, it might be this one.
Yeah, because I mean, there's not much game to it, but the big selling point is
Pokemon 3D.
That's it.
That's all you need to know.
That's all I needed as a kid.
Oh, geez, that was enormous. At the time, like, this is how big 3D was back then, especially with Pokemon. I remember for Christmas this year, I distinctly remember asking for a strategy guide for this game. I had no N64, I had no copy of this game, no interest in them whatsoever. I just wanted a book of Pokemon in 3D.
Yes, and that was the thing, because as a kid, I always dreamed, oh my gosh, what would a 3D home console, like, N64 game look like? And you kind of get a glimpse at that with the Stadium, Pokemon Stadium games. There you go.
For the most part. And the animations in this are actually pretty good.
Yeah, for an N64 game. Now, they don't include every Pokemon, right?
It's darn close.
Yeah.
But they don't have all of them. And same for the sequel, they won't have all of them, but it's enough. So it's like I believe it's all the final evolutions. It's just some of the middle ones are chopped just for the sake of space, but that's fine. Because anybody really feasibly is not going to have trouble finding a full team or something to do. So yeah, effectively there is a campaign, and there's lots of mini games, which is a lot of what people love to do as well. Kim, actually, the whole reason she likes the game is just the silly mini games.
Oh yeah, like the Chansey egg pocket catching game.
Yeah. In fact, Clover has been playing some of those as well, and she beat me in one of them. I think it was the Chansey egg or what? I don't remember, or the Eevee grabbing the berries and whatnot. I might be thinking of Stadium 2. They blend in my head. But yeah, you can go through, like, you take a bunch of rental Pokemon, and you can fight through campaigns and stuff. But you can also transfer Pokemon from your Game Boy.
Yep.
If you have the peripherals to do such.
Yeah, which are very expensive and kind of harder and harder to come by.
Yeah. But anyway, it was Pokemon in 3D, and even though it was basically extremely slow turn-based battles, it didn't matter because Pokemon were in 3D, and Pokemon, as we mentioned before, you couldn't get any bigger than this because in the West, like, didn't we just mention, like, this really just started happening the previous years for us? Yeah. And we were getting everything all at once, and then all of a sudden Pokemon in 3D. It's like we were getting hit with one huge Pokemon bomb after another. So this was just continuing that.
If you do want to play this will be coming to the NSO expansion pack soon.
Yep. I don't know about... They're getting both, aren't they?
Correct.
Okay, good. They should. They should.
Oh, yeah.
Play with Shuckle in Stadium 2.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, wall them off.
All right.
Anyway,
Last game.
Last N64, I promise, though we have more games after this, even though time-wise, we don't have time for it. Sin and Punishment. This did not come to the West until,
WiiWare, I think.
Yeah, it was Wii, I think, was the first time they let us buy this.
Yes.
And I was so close to buying this. You know what? Funny story.
Yeah.
This was going to be an original Ocarina Hero review video. Because I actually wanted to play this so badly, and I was so excited when I saw it was coming out, and pretty much all of the videos I was doing on that old channel, making reviews, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I was making basically playing with myself reviews, but me in 2007. So they're not so great. But for the sake of, like, looking at new stuffs, this was, like, the first one I wanted to play and showcase to show off a new thing to people. Yeah. Which is something I do much more so nowadays, instead of just, like, I'm gonna joke about Sonic the Hedgehog, and I still have not done a Sonic game. I've done, like, 100 and some episodes, I've never done a Sonic game yet. But anyway, Sin and Punishment is an on-rail shooter, but you're, like, kind of running on the ground the whole time. You also have, like, a blade sword, so you kind of sort of have combat, but think, like, what's the name of the Landmaster levels in Star Fox 64. Think that when you're playing this. So there's, like, stuff flying all over the place, like, coming at you, and you're just, like, blasting them out of the sky. It's a crazy action game.
Yeah, this is a game from Treasure, so that should tell you something about how frenetic and frantic this game can get.
Love the art design for this, too. It's very Japanese. It might be why it ended up not being ported, which is a stupid excuse if it's true.
Whatever. But, I don't really have much to say about this because I have yet to play this one. However, this one is also coming out for the NSO expansion pack as well.
With some English translations, too. I'm not sure about all of it. There's also a sequel on the Wii.
Yes, Sin and Punishment.
Which we did get. Destruction Resurrection? I don't know. Zach's probably putting a picture on screen, making us both look like fools.
Yeah. It's not.
Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Star Successor.
Okay,
yeah, I
sure. That's
whatever. But anyway, I have played some of this. It is a really good time. Unfortunately, at the time, I had to stop playing because of the language barrier. So luckily, that's not going to be a thing anymore. If not, you can kind of patch the thing and get around that. But I wouldn't have been able to do it for a video at the time anyway because it's all Japanese. Yeah. But still, like, this is an N64 game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting great shots here, but this looks really good and stylish. It's like taking advantage of the fact that the N64 doesn't look great.
No.
And it's given it its own, like, you know how, like, the Dreamcast was using cell shading to try and, like, solve this low poly hindrance of the time?
Yeah.
Sin and Punishment is just, like, so artsy.
Yeah, it really does try. I think it actually does a really good job at getting its own anime aesthetic across in terms of those low poly models. I think it has to do with the shading and the texture work. I think that's what carries it.
But anyway, it's a really good time. I wanted to make sure we talked about it before we passed over.
Yes.
And now we're on the PlayStation. 3 games left. I promise we got to wrap this up.
Woo!
So, RPGs for the most part. Actually, yes, we're just going to be talking about RPGs.
Well, that's just it because most of the good games that came out for the PlayStation 1 we already talked about.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 9. I don't really want to talk about every single Final Fantasy ever. I swear it will die down after this because Final Fantasy kind of dies down after this.
For a long while, yeah.
But anyway, I have started this game, but I didn't get far enough to comfortably tell you guys about it. So Zach.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 9 is basically the game that returns the series to its fantasy roots. 7 and 8 were very much science fiction, cyberpunk kind of stories with hints of magic and mysticism stuff thrown in there for good measure.
Yeah.
Whereas with this game, this is a straight-up fantasy game with fantasy races and magic. You've got animal people, you've got humans, you've got elves, you got dragons. It's cool.
The original Black Mage from the first game?
Yep, so the thing about this game is it includes a lot of callbacks to a lot of earlier Final Fantasy motifs and ideas and designs. So like Vivi is the stereotypical Black Mage, and we've got classes again like the Thief, we've got the Black Mage, White Mage, which is Dagger, Summoner, which is Aiko, which is a little girl who has blue hair, yellow pants, and she's from a weird, far-off country, whatever. So the whole point of the game is that you are Zidane, and you are part of a performance troupe called Tantalus, and your goal is to kidnap the princess. Turns out, though, it's a lot easier than you thought for because the princess wants to be kidnapped. You don't know why, but she willingly gets on the ship with you, and shenanigans ensue as the Queen Braun, her mother, sends out an entire army to go after you. And things just escalate from there. It's a very well told story. I think the cutscenes in this game are probably the best that Square put out for the PlayStation 1.
I was even going to say, this is some of the best looking graphics on the PlayStation 1.
Absolutely. I think so too.
This is really pushing it to its limit. Now, of course, some of these shots we're looking at are like an HD upscale re-release of the game.
Yeah, on Steam and modern consoles. Yeah.
Which is a good thing. You can actually play these on modern consoles. The way I was playing this was on the Nintendo Switch.
Yep, there you go. Like I said, I really enjoyed this game. The only thing was, I think when I was playing it, I had someone help me a little bit with the final boss. Was a little bit harder than I anticipated when I played this game originally. Which, most of the game itself is not that difficult, but yeah, it was a serious spike at the end. But still, I hold this game in pretty high regard, and I think it's a really good example of what Final Fantasy is, because I think even Hironobu Sakaguchi said that this is the way he wanted the original Final Fantasy to look if he had made it back then, which is telling.
Yeah, it is. I really like the aesthetic of this game. Like they're trying to take advantage of what they can with the hardware, but also make it look complete. And by doing that, it actually aged much better than a lot of the games that we've been talking about today.
Absolutely,
or just of the era. This looks like you could easily say, oh, that could be like an early GameCube or a Dreamcast game.
Almost, yeah.
It's using last-gen hardware, and it looks like a next-gen game.
Yeah, kind of like how we were talking about with Super Mario RPG on the SNES.
And it's huge.
Yeah, it's a 4-disc game. So it's like that was like almost 4 gigs. at the time, which is insane.
It's freaking enormous.
But yeah, play it. It's really good. I think it's a tie between this and 7 as my favorite PlayStation Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Big words. All right. We have another sort of an RPG. I mean, yes, it's an RPG. I mean, Vagrant Story. This is an odd game.
Yeah, it's one that kind of defies categorization.
Similarly to Sin and Punishment, it's very artsy with its textures.
Yes.
And it kind of lets them, as you can kind of see with some of these shots here, even though they're all like the same boss for some reason, it's letting it accomplish much more than what the system normally would do. This is where we can actually see like a high resolution of the polys and stuff.
Right.
Of how detailed its characters are.
Yeah, again, it's all about the texture work that I think really sells the look of this. Because this is supposed to be sort of like a old school tapestry painting almost. Like
yes, like their like original artwork, promotional work, which I might as well leave one of these up here because they're trying to replicate this in the main gameplay. And the gameplay, I mean, okay, story-wise and all that stuff, it's for the most part, from my understanding, another sort of generic RPG. That's not really why we wanted to talk about it. It's mostly because of the action aspect of the gameplay.
Yeah.
You actually run around in real time, but you will then pause, kind of like in Parasite Eve, to choose, like, okay, you want to attack. You have an enemy in front of you. Do you want to attack the head? Do you want to aim for the leg? There's different accuracy and defenses for each of these spots, and you have to choose what to damage in order to try and take down your foes. It's a lot to process.
And different weapons have different statuses, different attack types, and actually are more effective against certain enemies than others. Because like with Parasite Eve, like you said, there's like a little sphere that comes up that pauses the game.
Right, and you can see like how far your guns will shoot, which makes no sense.
For Parasite Eve.
For Parasite Eve. But in this case, you can also see, like in the bottom corner, there is a little icon of your main character, whose name escapes me at the moment, even though I swear I played some of this.
Ashley Riot.
Oh, that was it.
Ashley Riot, yep.
That dude. So, anyway, you can have, like, that's kind of your own health of showing, like, oh, you were hit too many times in the leg.
So your movement speed is going to get reduced.
Exactly. And, like, based on what damage you take in different places, you're going to feel the effects in gameplay.
Exactly.
Which is really cool.
And holding it all together is a really interesting story, for me at least, because it takes place in the same world of Final Fantasy Tactics.
Really?
Yes, this takes place in the world.
I didn't know that.
Yep, this takes place in the world of Ivalice. And oh my gosh.
Because I never got to finish or even much less start Tactics.
No, I was getting pretty decently into this game, but again, this is another one I didn't finish. I mainly panic bought this when they said that they were closing down the PlayStation 3 shop.
We're all suckers.
I know. But it's very much one of political intrigue about usurping, people. And
I think one of like their dialogue balloons too. It's so artsy.
Yeah, and it's actually written by the same guy who wrote Final Fantasy Tactics and the Tactics Ogre series. So it's very well written. And this game got a lot cut.
Really?
Like it was getting so big that Square's like, okay, we gotta release this at some point. You gotta cut some stuff. He was able to still finish it and make a complete game that you do not miss anything that was cut, which I think is very commendable.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's a really good RPG. I think RPG-ish kind of game.
And of course, just like many other things that Square Enix owns, they don't want to remaster it or anything. They want to sell you toys.
And figures that are way too expensive.
All sorts of overpriced stuff instead of just porting and bringing it up.
But yeah, so anyway, last one.
Last one, we promise. Of course. This whole time, we pull up the curtain at the end and surprise, we tricked you. We're talking about Dragon Quest again.
You've been fooled!
Oh, God, Zach.
Or he's been fooled.
Yeah, I've been fooled. Zach, what are we going to talk about Dragon Quest again?
Because it's my favorite series, and I will take every freaking opportunity to talk about it. I will pontificate about this series until the day I die, thank you very much.
And I will give you a platform to do so.
Why, thank you.
As fast as possible, because you have to edit this. And you do not want to know how long this episode is.
Oh, I can see how long this episode is, and I did not expect any less. So, Dragon Quest VII, or Dragon Warrior 7 as we got in the States, was the first release in years that we got a Dragon Quest game. Dragon Quest IV for the NES was the last game we got before Enix closed down its American branch for some stupid reason. Yeah. Anyway, so the thing I love about Dragon Warrior 7 is that this came out or was being developed around the time that Yuji Horii was working on Chrono Trigger for the SNES with Squaresoft. And he takes the idea of time travel and actually kind of puts his own spin on it in the Dragon Quest universe. So the game starts out, and you are the hero which you're basically like the wimpiest hero in the entire series. Where it's like, you are the son of a fisherman.
This little dude.
Yeah, that little dude. The son of the big, strong, bad fisherman.
Your Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon.
Basically, although you have the ability to actually go back in time, because between you and your two friends, thinking there's got to be more to the world, we can't be the only island in this place. Turns out you're right, because of a huge battle that took place between good and evil, the rest of the world was basically sealed off. So you go back in time, finding these different little puzzle pieces, and you put them together, and it takes you back in time to a different time period in a different area, where you solve that area's problems and you claim that area back. So, say you go back in time and the first island you go to is one where the monsters have taken over a town and destroy it. You go back in time, you solve that problem, and help the warrior maiden back then to fix the problem, then that island will come back to the present day. So you can explore it in the modern day and see how your actions back in the past played out into the future. Or to the present.
That's weird. This really is Chrono Trigger first.
Yeah.
Which is super weird, because that series, just not to like waste more time and do like a bit of a tangent, it's strange that so many things go back to Dragon Quest the more that I learn about it, because Chrono Trigger ends up being the series that sort of kind of makes its own little spin-off and turns into Xenogears, which then sort of kind of has its own little spin-off into Xenosaga, which becomes Xenoblade.
Yep, exactly. And also, speaking of the Chrono series, Chrono Cross actually comes out this year as well for the PlayStation. Which, you know, that one doesn't deal as much with time travel. That's more about...
for the West, right? I think we talked about it last year.
Yeah. We got it in the West at that point, yes.
Right.
My bad. The one thing I will say about this game, it is expansive. This game was in production for 4 years. This really should have come out in like 1997 or so.
That was a long time back then.
Yes. And the problem is, you could kind of tell it started development way early in the PlayStation's life, because this is the start when Dragon Quest kind of goes more for amount of content in its game. It's well over like 120 hours just to do the main story.
Oh my goodness.
You don't even get into your first battle in this version of the game until 5 hours in.
Oh jeez.
And you do not even unlock the job system until 35, 40 hours in. So that's just it. You don't even unlock Dharma Temple in order to be able to get your job class switching up ability until then. However, some of the stories that they do tell, I will admit, are actually very touching. And they actually do focus an awful lot on like really dark themes, which Dragon Quest is known for touching on dark themes with a very anime aesthetic. They're usually bright and colorful, but in this you have like humans being turned into the slaves for monsters and being beaten and like kept down in like the slums underneath a monster's castle and stuff. Like, it gets crazy, and it also even touches vaguely on the idea of divinity and stuff, which
so it's like a soft Xenogears.
Kind of. You actually, in a side...
Xenogears dives right into all that stuff.
Spoiler, as like a part of the side content for post-game, you can actually fight God. You can fight God and get a wish.
Named God God?
Named God God.
That's awesome. I've only ever done that in Shin Megami Tensei.
Yep. And he looks like the stereotypical version of God, like a happy-looking dude with a white beard.
A big billowy white beard with a staff.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Santa Claus in a bathrobe.
Yeah, basically. So it's... But that's also its biggest weakness, because after a while you're just like, can we just get on with the story?
Yeah.
It's glacial. Now, this got remade for the 3DS, as we can see if you go to the second row, the 3DS thing.
Yep.
They fixed up a lot of some of the pacing issues. They've made it look prettier. It runs a lot better. You actually get into your first fight instead of 5 hours in. You get it in at either 2 to 3 hours in this time. And you get your jobs unlocked like 20 to 25 hours in this time.
It's just so much.
But it cuts out a lot of chaff. And so that tells you how long the original...
How much chaff there was.
Uh-huh.
Or just how beefy the story was that they were trying to tell.
Yeah, well, and the thing, too, is you also have to take PlayStation 1 load times into account as well.
That's true.
But that's still, even with that...
But still, yeah, it shouldn't be hours. I'm not sitting around loading for something for hours.
Right, exactly. But, again, it's one of those kind of flawed games. 6 and 7 kind of are like, not really a low point, but just an off point for the series for
seems
me.
more weird.
Yeah, it's really weird, and especially how it handles time travel, because you don't ever go into the future. It's all about the past, bringing the past to the present, and fixing what happened back then.
You are in the future.
Yeah, basically you are in the future. Still, I would say if you can find a way to play the 3DS remake, play that one, but that game is as expensive as I'll get out on the secondhand market.
It sounds like you'll be playing it for like another year anyway, so if you really
Also a good opportunity to tell people, hey, did you know it's really easy to hack your 3DS?
It's really easy to hack your 3DS.
I'm not saying do it, but it's really easy to do.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we need to wrap this up because this is also monumentally long. Just as Dragon Quest VII. So, luckily enough, we can do this a little bit faster than normal because this is the first time, and maybe the only time, that our favorite and influential games are the same. So, Zach, what is both your favorite influential game of the year?
That would be Phantasy Star Online, what I'm playing right now.
You couldn't tell.
I can't help
I don't know. Yeah, I should just passed up a Dragon Quest game, so...
I did. I love Dragon Quest a whole lot, but I don't know. It's just something about being able to play online with other people, a game that I missed out on as a kid because, again, didn't have a Dreamcast, and I didn't have good online support at the time. But I did play this on the GameCube with a bunch of my buddies at the time, couch co-op. So it was split into four separate screens, and it was still a lot of fun.
Nobody does that anymore. You know, like I just saw Monster Hunter Rise came in. It's the next game I'm going to be streaming on the channel. And the back of that, that's clearly a multiplayer game.
Yes.
Like when people are making a game that they know is multiplayer, and they deliberately make sure that you cannot play it with other people, no matter what. You have to buy another system and another copy of the game. I hate that.
It annoys me too, but that's resources that they're like, we could just put this towards internet infrastructure. The thing I love about it, like I said, it's kind of mindless. It's just easy just to get in, go in, just take a bunch of buddies, mow down enemies. And the one other thing I will say too, as weird as it sounds, the story is basically non-existent, but you get lore dumps.
That kind of happens in those anyway.
Yeah, but it's like Dark Souls in the fact that there's kind of like environmental storytelling.
You learn about the boss that you just defeated and like the item descriptions and things like that.
Exactly, yeah. And in the first game, one of the big things you're going for is that you're trying to find a hero named Red Ring Rico, who is the daughter of the captain of the Pioneer 2, that ship you're on. And her journal has been left all throughout Ragol, the planet you're exploring, and it tells you what she's experiencing. And also, too, little hints and tips about how to deal with some of the various monsters that you fight. It's actually a really sad story as you're going along, figuring out what happens to her as she gets closer and closer to the truth of what happened on this planet. In that regard, it's just enough story to keep you invested.
Favorite and influential.
Exactly, because without this, we would not have a lot of console MMOs or console online games. Square and Sony would not have put out Final Fantasy XI if it weren't for the success of this game. Monster Hunter would not exist as it is if it weren't for...
Most likely.
If it weren't for Phantasy Star Online. So, because of this game, we got not only a fantastic experience, but influential games... It
blossomed into a bunch of other stuff.
In their own right. Yep, exactly. So that's for me. What about you, sir? What's your favorite and most influential of the year?
Well, also it should be pretty obvious what I'm thinking in here. Just because of my limitation of not being able to have played all of the games this year, so that's a big thing holding me back here. But I'm going to say Majora's Mask.
And that's perfectly fair.
So, reason why, well, I mean, to play, as I even mentioned before, this is the only game on here not only have I, well, played, but also I wanted to go out of my way to play it in different ways and on different consoles.
Yeah.
And even still, I have put it onto my, let me see, I've modded it onto a few things. But I've modded it in multiple ways. I want to keep playing this game in different ways. It's such an interesting, and I'm going to get into the influential thing. I think it's more of an influential game. Actually, before I started this, my favorite I was teetering, but influential, I was like, it's Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Nothing against Phantasy Star, just haven't played that one. That's why.
I know.
So, just what Majora's Mask is, I feel like this is, or at least it should be, the influential game to show people how do you make a sequel when you're going to be reusing assets. If time is really that big of a factor and you're trying to churn something out quickly, it's all about the creativity of what you do want to change and how do you recreate a new experience out of something without going too far from it. Ocarina of Time was effectively Link to the Past in 3D, and Ocarina of Time is really just the basis of the 3D models that Majora's Mask then takes to create a completely different thing. So it's almost like this in-between step that we kept leaping and making brand new things for. And as I'd mentioned before, I'd really wished that we had seen a lot of these like creative changes and aspects added to Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild because of how creative and interesting that game is.
Yeah.
You can approach it from so many different angles, just trying to like figure out how you're going to like study and follow where people are going all the time, or just like headed to different regions of the map and just defeat dungeons. But now they're all time-based, and you got to figure out how do you play a Zelda game when that's looming over you, which is honestly probably one of my least favorite parts of this game. I hate being timed.
Yeah.
But
the thing that, well, like I mentioned earlier, just the very conceit of the game alone has influenced a lot of modern games as well. That using time travel as a means of, like I said, solving a murder mystery in one game.
The game mechanic itself is...
Oh, the Outer Wilds. That's a big time travel game where you're supposed to try to explore this galaxy, but you only have a limited time before the galaxy you're in just explodes because the sun dies. However...
You reset.
Yes, exactly. So you take the knowledge that you gain from exploring and use it to actually solve ostensibly and beat the game.
Yeah, and that really is Majora's Mask. It's all about like learning, because you'll never be able to know like what are the side quests I can do in Clocktown without screwing around in Clocktown. And luckily the first time you're in there's kind of like a tutorial built in, but you would only know if you were on your first try. So that's what's so cool. Even like, 10 rounds into the game, say you've beaten all the dungeons, you can do the tutorial again because everything's always happening. You are stuck in this loop and you're trying to break out in a way that saves the town from the moon.
Exactly.
So I think this is still a good year. It's not like an amazing year or anything. Like some of the ones we have coming up, I think we're almost certainly going to have to split them up, even though this one probably should have in hindsight. But it's because we won't shut up. That's really the problem. But do you guys really care that the episodes are longer anyway? I mean, we get to fully talk about everything we wanted to say anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, if nothing else, we're second monitor content. We can just be in the background. You can just listen to us ramble about
and
cool
eventually,
stuff.
Spotify put the earbuds in content. We are, for the record, we're on YouTube podcasts right now. I don't even know.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we are, but I haven't even been able to get it to work for myself. I don't know how you do it. Maybe it's because we're both old geezers and we don't understand what y'all kids are doing these days, but
playing that Fortnite and watching them Tic Tacs.
Yeah, but in a Minecraft business and whatever the business, you're buying your DLC loot crates. Yeah, get off my lawn.
I'll leave. That's fine. I'll go.
But anyway, we're trying. We should be on Spotify soon, as I'd mentioned. I am just working on a lot of projects at the same time, and this guy's injured.
I'm injured. I just got done moving and settling in. I'm awaiting surgery. I've got a lot on my head, or on my
a lot on his knee too.
I've got a lot going on with my knee, and I've got a lot going on in my head. It's just a lot. I'm trying so hard. I am finally trying to get a video edited for the first time in over a month, and I'm trying to get used to that again.
It might be 2, a month and a half. I don't know. It's been a long time.
May. Oh my God, no, it's May.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But hopefully, if there's any bright side of you having to stay home, maybe we can do some more HITBOX Live episodes just in the interim. We have several planned where we don't actually have to be in the room with each other, so hopefully we can do it where Zach can be in the comfort of his own home and doesn't have to drive all the way here with his bum knee.
I've got a better internet connection at where I'm at now than I did previously, so I should actually be able to stream and upload a lot better.
Yeah, we'll put that to the test sometime soon. But anyway, that is all the time we have for now. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoy the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. And for those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members, so we don't have to talk about Preparation H. See ya.
It burns. See ya.